This is marijuana. And because I'm in Oregon, where it's legal to grow and consume marijuana, it's okay, right? Well, sort of. Since Colorado and Washington state legalized recreational marijuana in 2012, 29 states to date have legalized some kind of marijuana use. But the federal government still considers possession of marijuana to be a crime. How can this be? If states can ignore the laws of the national government, does that mean the federal government's authority has just gone up in smoke? To appreciate the debate over legalizing weed, you need to know about federalism, the system of government where states share power with the national government. The U.S. Constitution divides powers between federal and state governments. Enumerated powers are for the federal government and reserved powers are for the states. Concurrent powers are powers that the state and federal governments share. But what happens when a federal law and state law come into conflict? We turn to what else? The Constitution, specifically Article 6, Clause 2, aka the Supremacy Clause, which basically says federal law trumps state law as the supreme law of the land. But since the Constitution was adopted over 200 years ago, there has been a nearly constant struggle to further define the balance of power between state and federal authority. Legalizing marijuana is just one of those battlegrounds.
That was true for the most part, whether the presidents and whether Congress at any given point was Democrat or Republican. Some of the Democratic presidents were just as hard on cannabis as the Republican ones. It only finally started to dial back a little with federal government rhetoric once we had probably the Obama administration come into office.
The Obama administration Justice Department under Eric Holder issued the Cole Memo, a directive that essentially told states that the federal government would not challenge new state laws as long as the states regulated their marijuana industries. Why? Well, in Obama's words, they had bigger fish to fry. This was a big deal because it put federalism to the test. Individual states were allowing something that the federal government still deemed highly illegal.
It was a yellow light for states' rights, sort of proceed with caution. We're going to sort of watch your marijuana experiments and see how you do. And for now, we're going to, withhold any sort of prosecution.
The Cole Memo, the federal government's decision to not fund enforcement, became the only thing standing between being considered a law-abiding citizen at the state level and a criminal at the federal level. Because the feds, this is still illegal, right?
Yes. State legal marijuana is not a shield to violations of federal law. Until federal law and policy changes, there's no real safe harbor, even though people may feel a little more comfortable when they're complying with state laws.
Federalism, how power is shared between national and state governments, is influenced by what's going on at the time. This means that over the years, there have been plenty of kinds of federalism to choose from. Dual federalism, cooperative federalism, new federalism, creative federalism, fiscal federalism. The Obama administration was practicing progressive federalism. Let the states figure out what works best and maybe we can learn a thing or two approach. But there was no guarantee the federal government would continue to look the other way. The change in the administration, and in particular, the appointment of Jeff Sessions as Attorney General, has marijuana advocates worried. This is Jeff Sessions speaking at a hearing about marijuana legalization in 2016 when he was a senator from Alabama.
And trying to send that message with clarity that good people don't smoke marijuana.
Jeff Sessions, not a fan of cannabis. So what's stopping him from busting me right now?
While Jeff Sessions would probably like to enforce federal law against state marijuana programs, it is difficult for him because, number one, he has no funds per congressional allocation to chase medical marijuana programs and actors. And number two, he would be fighting popular sentiment.
A recent poll by CBS News released April 20th, 2017, found that 61% of Americans want marijuana to be legalized. But on January 4th, 2018, Jeff Sessions rescinded the Obama-era policies laid out in the Cole memo, meaning that marijuana programs and businesses could be prosecuted by the federal government. So even though the feds have the authority to crack down in states that have any kind of legal weed, it seems that the DOJ is considering how Congress and the public might react. And that's federalism.
Yeah, that's basically federalism. Congress could kind of decide to crack down, but it seems like, again, we're operating in a majority atmosphere, and it's not unusual anymore for a state to say we are okay with marijuana use to some extent.
So what's next? Federalism just means sharing power. It doesn't say how the power should be shared. So the balance is always shifting and responding to the times and presidential priorities and decisions. So time will tell what type of federalism is next.